Antibiotics used in pork, poultry, and meat are on the rise. According to a recent study, global consumption of antibiotics used in animals will surge, get this, 67%, and that number will only continue to go up. With more on this, supermarket guru Phil Lempert, who's actually in studio today. Thank goodness. Good to see you. So, this soaring antibiotic use is offshore. It's China. It's India. Do we have to worry about that here?
Absolutely. Keep in mind that it's a short-term solution. Antibiotics are used, frankly, to kill disease from unsanitary farming conditions. So if you look at China, which is the #1 producer of hogs, more pigs live in China than any other place in the world. Yeah, they use more antibiotics than any other country. A lot of it has to do with sanitation. But the problem is, short-term, you can use antibiotics. But as you point out, as we do more and more with antibiotics, we're going to have more resistance to them. We already have strains of E. coli and salmonella that are resistant to antibiotics.
And we're fighting off some really super bugs in hospitals all over the country. So that's not good news. I also want to talk about GMOs, genetically modified organisms. We're seeing this now in apples and potatoes. Tell me what this means.
Well, the funny thing is that this story is even more important today because tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock in Washington, the full Ag Committee starts open hearings about just this, whether or not genetically modified organisms should be labeled. So it's real interesting that it comes out. So the apples, first of all, don't brown. What they did on that apple is they actually went in, they turned off 4 genes to prevent browning. And also what also the benefit is that the browning kills antioxidants. So this is, if you would, a quote unquote healthier apple as a result of it.
But wait a minute, healthier, but I don't know when it's going bad. Maybe I want to know when it's going bad if I've cut into it.
Well, apples are very curious for me. First of all, most apples that we buy in the supermarket have been in storage for about a year, unless you're picking them off a tree yourself.
They're not that fresh.
They're not that fresh, number one. Number two, there is some benefit to it. But what I like about GMOs is when they actually have a health benefit to it.
Like what?
Well, keeping more antioxidant, more of the polyphenols are active because it doesn't brown. So I think that's a good thing for us. But
not every GMO is good, though, right?
Well, from a science standpoint, no GMO has been proven to not be safe. Number one, it's more of a philosophical issue that I think that we deal with. Now, in the case of the potato, and that was just going into the apple, turning off 4 genes. Now, if you look at the potato, altogether different. That's actually taking genes from other potatoes and putting it in these potatoes. But here's my problem with these companies, both companies. First of all, the apple is called Arctic apple. Not very appealing. And the potatoes are called innate potatoes. Can't somebody come up with, food words for these?
All right. Marketing controversies aside.
Okay.
What's on the horizon, to me, is what's scary. This is not that concerning. But you say someday they're going to try to swap genetic material between, produce and animals.
Cross species. Right now, that is not allowed by law. But the question has always come up whether or not, philosophically, whether or not emotionally, whether or not from a safety standpoint, once we start breeding cross species, what happens next?
So I would breed a fish with what?
Well, anything that requires impervious to water. And again, that's one of the reasons that we really have all this controversy about GMO labeling, whether or not a product should be labeled so you and I can make the choice that we want.
So you can see it and buy it if you want to and avoid it if you want to. Phil Lempert, so good to see you.
Good to see you, Gerri.
And now